y'all, I'm James Wright. Welcome to my shop, and this is a Norris plane. Ooh. You may have heard of the Norris adjuster as opposed to the Bailey adjuster. You may find it intriguing that the Norris adjuster came about because of the Norris Plane Company. That's right, Norris of London. Norris started using the Norris adjuster because, well, they made the adjuster for themselves, so it's called the Norris adjuster because they made it. Let me take you back to the 1800s. Wooden hand planes were the general style. Most people who did woodworking used wooden hand planes. But there were a couple problems with it. Number one, the sole wore out really quickly. Number two, they were relatively lightweight. And number three, they were kind of looked at as slightly unfashionable because if you had the money, you would buy an infill plane. And infill planes, especially in England, became the plane to go and get because they feel premium. The adjustment isn't done by brute force and a hammer. You have an adjuster you can move around on them. And companies are all over the place hand-making hand planes, and every one of them have slightly different features that they make. And each plane maker out there is making them differently. They're making them the way they want to make them. They might make them in a style you would see from other planes in the area, but it was usually just one guy in his shop making planes. He might have actually a few guys in his shop making planes, but they were made under the name of that particular maker. Then you started seeing Stanley and others coming around with some new designs that really took off. And particularly in the US, the Stanley Bailey style just became the standard. And now every plane that's made is made like a Stanley Bailey. In the UK though, that was more commonly known as the Norris plane. The Norris adjuster, the infill style, became the standard for most of England until around World War I. When Stanley first came out with their planes, they had the depth adjuster on a knob, but you can see there is no lateral adjuster. There is no way to move this iron back and forth, and you would still have to use a hammer to hit the iron. Later on, they came out with the lateral adjuster, and so you could laterally move your iron side to side and still adjust its depth with the knob. Two separate movements, two separate tools. Norris, that's kind of expensive to have multiple parts to do multiple things. What if I had one tool that could do both? The Norris adjuster moves the iron laterally, but it's also there to move the depth of the iron so you can advance it forward and retract it. One piece that does everything. Let's take it apart and take a look at it. So the first thing that's a little different on this is you have to ruin this screw all the way out in order to get this out, because the chip breaker screw is huge. And the chip breaker screw is what the adjuster actually connects into. Let me take out these screws on the side so that I can remove the lever cap. And inside here you can see the mechanism. There is a fulcrum here and this catch ring that then fits the nut into. The nut actually fits into that catch ring, and that's what allows you to have the lateral movement as well as the depth of adjustment. Let me remove a couple screws, and now we can lift this mechanism out of the wooden body of the handle. And yes, the wood is all the way up and down. It's held into the body with a pin right through there. Inside you can see it's just a plate riveted on, and it turns it into a fulcrum with this screw that runs that ring up and down. But interestingly enough, this screw is actually a double screw. There's one threaded inside of this so that every rotation of this moves that twice as much as the fine thread on there. That whole body fits onto that screw, and now you've got the whole Norris mechanism. Very, very simple, very few parts, and you can do both lateral and depth adjustment with one piece. So the rest of the body is really simple. It's just one cast piece, a button up front, a handle in the back, and then you can insert this in. Very simple, efficient, and easy way to make planes. Nowadays though, the Norris adjuster gets a bit of bad rap. Part of that is due to these low angle planes. The adjuster in here is hard to get to, and a lot of times you actually have to loosen up the lever cap in order to get enough force on this in order to be able to turn it. It's a really painful design. But inside, it's just a simple Norris adjuster that moves back and forth. The other reason they get a lot of bad rap is the knob just tends to be kind of small and close. They're usually somewhat hard to get a hold of. And if they're not done right, you get a lot of movement from that little bit of adjustment, and that really ends up being a deal breaker, because then you're past it too far and past it again, and you have to work your way back and forth until you finally get the lateral adjustment set. But there are versions of them that I absolutely love. This one on the custom is actually really nice. The amount of movement you get in that lateral is really, really nice. And it doesn't matter how tightly you crank it down, this knob still has a good functioning movement on it. But then one of my favorites is this one from Reed. You got this huge knob on here that allows you to really fine tune the depth adjustment. And then on this one, the actual socket that goes into the chip breaker is very different. This rectangular force gives you a far better connection. And I really like this one. That longer rod and the really big wheel on there give me full control over how this plane works. If you ever talk to a group of woodworkers about the Norris Adjuster, you're going to get a wide collection of different things. Some people absolutely love it and think it's the best thing to ever hit the wheel. But some people, it's really annoying. I don't like messing with them. Others are just like, you know what, Stanley did it best. Let's split into two separate things so we have one function for one for the other, and that way you're not going to be messing with one or the other when you're trying to adjust the other one. And then you're going to talk to a few others that are just like, I want to hit something, and they really don't care about adjusters because they want to use a mallet. So I'd love to hear from you. Have you used the adjusters, and which ones do you like, which ones don't you like, or is there something that you would like to see done on an adjuster in the future? Maybe some future maker will take it into advice. Or maybe not. You'll never know until you put the comment down below. Thank you. That does help out the channel. Anytime you like, comment, share, subscribe. Yeah, I know. I say it all the time, but really it does help us out. And so thank you for that. But if you really want to be amazing, you really want to help out this channel, think about supporting us on Patreon. The names scrolling over there are some of the people. And particularly, I want to say a huge thank you to the man. Between patrons and members, people who hit the thank you button, you guys support this channel. I don't have to be sponsored by some company selling some doodad. I get to talk about the things that I want to talk about. And sometimes those are things that people don't care about. But I do because they're special to me. So I hope you like that. If you want to find out more about that, then, you know, links down below. I think that'll do it for now. And until next time, have a wonderful day. If you like singing songs, you've often sung that section that comes in between the main verses. But every now and then that section of the song just doesn't sound very right. And it's that point where you could really take one of these and you could get a chorus adjuster.